3.1 How change occurs naturally in ecosystems. How organisms adapt to change. Organisms use natural selection, which means the best adapted members of a species survive and reproduce. This process makes change in living things possible. Another way organisms adapt to change is by adaptive radiation, which is a number of new species forming from a common ancestor. How ecosystems change over time. Ecosystems are continually changing, and as abiotic factors change, so do the species that live there. Another term that scientists use for changes that take place over time and the types of organisms that live in an area is ecological succession. Ecosystems also develop by a process called primary succession, which is advance of new life in areas where no soil or organisms previously existed. Ecosystems also reintroduce life after disturbance by a process called secondary succession. An example of this is after a forest fire, there's nothing but ash and burnt trees left. There are still seeds, weeds, and trees in the soil that will soon begin to grow. How natural events affect ecosystems. There are many ways natural events affect ecosystems, one of which is flooding. It causes widespread disease. Another way is tsunamis, which destroy plants and animals. A natural event that results in crop failures and dead livestock is a drought. The last way a natural event affects an ecosystem is insect infestations, which destroy weak pine trees that provide shelter for other animals.
3.2 How humans influence ecosystems. Wetlands. Wetlands are important to the environment because wetlands contain many different species of organisms. They filter out waste and water that flows through them, and they also prevent flooding. Sustainability is when a resource of an ecosystem are used without damaging the ecosystem in the present or in the future. There are two ways humans can influence an ecosystem. Through land use, how humans use land for development, and resource use, how humans obtain and use natural materials. Human expansion such as building roads, malls, and parking lots has resulted in habitat loss of habitats due to human activities, and habitat fragmentation, when a habitat is split into smaller habitats which interfere with the natural activities for an organism. Deforestation is clearing of forests to be used by humans and not to be replanted. Some consequences of deforestation are the clear-cut areas are never reclaimed or replanted. Crops that are planted in deforested areas are often one species. It removes protection from plants and animals. Topsoil is the upper layer of a soil where nutrients, water, and air is found. Soil degradation occurs when topsoil is eroded by wind and water decay. Soil degradation happens when land is exposed by deforestation or when fields are left bare because it's not in planting season. Humans rely on resource exploitation for jobs, materials, food, shelter, and energy. Resource exploitation can lead to habitat loss, soil degradation, and contamination of supplies of water. Contamination is when harmful chemicals or microorganisms are introduced to the environment. Overexploitation is when resources are extracted until they are gone. Overexploitation can result in extinction of a species, changed food webs for long periods or forever. The overexploited species could be essential species for other organisms.
3.3 How introduced species affect ecosystems. What are introduced native and invasive species? Introduced species are new species that are introduced into an ecosystem and are usually beneficial or harmless. Another type of species are native species. They are organisms that inhabit an area entirely for natural resources, with no human intervention involved. But invasive species are non-native species of animals, plants, microorganisms, or pathogens that can take over the habitat of another species, forcing the native species to decline in population. An example of invasive species are humans.